Good morning, good evening, good all the things. Hey, what's going on? I'm Katie Brannon, and I'm sorry about last time I did not do my intro. I was just on a mission or very hyped up on caffeine, so who knows. But this time, thank you for tuning in, you guys listening or watching. I'm going to be talking about a case that has literally just been haunting me, and unfortunately, it happened on Valentine's Day. This case has a lot of twists and turns. I hope you're ready. We're going to be talking about Angela Horton's mother. Yes, thank you. Those were the good vibes I'm going to send you. As you know, my podcast is viewer discretion is advised. I'm going to be talking about true crime content, and it may be disturbing to others. All right. Now let's go give Susan some justice by telling her story. Susan Shibley was born in Oklahoma on January 5th, 1946. And yes, that makes her a Capricorn. And she had all the characteristics of a Capricorn. She had class, she had elegance, and as you can see, she had beauty. And not only that, guys, she was extremely intelligent. She actually graduated with special needs education. She received her master's degree, but all she wanted in her life was to be a great mom, and she really loved being a mother. Now, she grew up with four brothers, and she had a teenage daughter by the time she met her second husband, Dr. John Baxter Hamilton. Now, there's not much on the first husband, but she did have two children, and then he had two children. So Dr. John and you have Susan, they're on their second marriages when they meet. So they meet a little later in life. Now, their marriage was the kind of marriage where people envied. I mean, extremely envied. Not only he was a doctor, he was also a surgeon, and he worked in OBGYN. So not only that, they also had the same views. They shared the same views. They shared the same elegant kind of tastes. And on one of the occasions, I'm not sure if it was Valentine's Day or it was her birthday, because I keep hearing different things, he gifted her a Porsche. Yeah, that fancy car. Absolutely. So before her horrible, horrible death, she was married to him for 14 years. And like I said, their marriage to people were like, let me know down in the comments below who you think maybe pop culture wise has a great marriage. Okay. But friends, families, neighbors, they were the kind of couple that everybody kind of wanted to be. She had a very, very big family, like I said, four brothers she was raised with. And even though they picked on her a lot and teased her, she was very strong. She was very resilient, and she was like a no-nonsense kind of gal, When Dr. John married Susan, they actually met through mutual friends at a birthday party. And like I said, they both were each other's second marriage. Now, they were married actually in 1987. And Susan worked at the clinic for a few days a week at the OBGYN clinic. Now, around this time, guys, I'm going to be talking about the late 90s and the early 2000s. Now, around this time, I don't know if you know, but abortion is a very controversial subject. It's so controversial. In fact, during that time in the Midwest, you had pro-life protesters killing surgeons. Yeah, you heard that right. They're pro-life people, but yet they're killing surgeons, they're lighting hospitals on fire, and they're doing bombs and bomb threats. So it's a very tumultuous time right now. There is tension, but Dr. John actually assisted in abortions because he did believe in women's choice, which Susan was extremely agreeable with that. That's why she helped him, and they truly believed that if women really need an abortion, they wanted to terminate pregnancies in a proper and safe way. I mean, the safe, I don't know, that kind of stretches a little bit, but like I said, they were definitely pro-choice, not pro-life. So with that happening, like I said, a whole bunch of things were like happening, and the things were the tension with the bombing around the Midwest. And in fact, a few days before this poor death of this amazing woman, there was like a fire. There was someone trying to light the clinic on fire that her husband worked at. So yeah, that's not a good vibe at all. And they would receive like hate mail. One of the mail that she would receive, that would be his face, and it would say something like "wanted" on it, and it basically threatened Dr. Hamilton's life. But no matter what, Susan stuck by him because she truly believed in human rights, women rights, and empowerment. Now, I don't want to go too much on this controversial subject. Just saying what's going on with Susan is my main concern. But please know that that's what Dr. Hamilton did. His main job was a surgeon, where he also mainly was about women's health, OBGYN. Now, I'm going to take you to the day that changed everything. Unfortunately, you guys, I'm talking about Valentine's Day. I'm going to talk about February 14th, 2001. February 14th, 2001, Dr. John Baxter Hamilton goes to the house to go see his wife because it's Valentine's Day and he wanted to give her a card between surgeries. So when he arrived at the home, he automatically noticed something was amiss. The back door was opened. He goes upstairs, and in her bathroom lied it's a horrible, gruesome, bloody scene where Susan is at. She is nude. It's just like a horror movie scene. Her face is unrecognizable. There are 2 neckties that are tied around her neck, and her face is not only recognizable, but her head it looked like a blunt trauma that bashed in. So immediately when he sees his wife, he dials 911. Now this phone call, basically he's like, help, I came home, my wife is bleeding, and, he sounds like he's crying. So, of course, they're like, do CPR. Please see if your wife is okay, better. Now, when he went over her body, now I told you it was a very bloody scene. He did get blood all over him. By the time the paramedics arrived, the way he was doing the chest compressions was very, very not normally what we would do. Now, CPR is typically when you basically put your mouth on someone else's mouth and you breathe in and out and you continue to do chest compressions. He only did the chest compressions, but not in the right kind of way. When the paramedics came to see Susan and try to help her, they obviously knew that there was no help. I mean, she was extremely disfigured, lost a lot of blood. It was a horrible, horrible scene. But they walked in on seeing Dr. John put one hand on her chest and the other around her lung and stomach area and was pressing. I'm not a doctor. I don't think that's the right way. I was taught very different at my Red Cross class, but that's what he was doing. Apologize for the couple interruptions. I usually turn my sound off so nobody can notify me and stuff, so I can be 100% in this podcast, but apparently I forgot to turn my sound on my computer, so messages are coming through. I do apologize. So poor Susan. The first thing when police do is they go in and they see this horrific scene, but they notice something immediately. They notice there are bloody footprints by the body. And not only that, the home is in immaculate condition. I mean, it was a gorgeous home, you guys. It was very large. I mean, he is a doctor, and he's in a very prominent, prestigious neighborhood in Oklahoma that people really, like I said, this murder shocked like the nation. They couldn't even believe it. So when they were looking at Susan, they were seeing how bloody it was and how gruesome. They're like, this is like kind of crime of passion almost, because just the way her face was like pummeled with something. First of all, when they got there, the first thing they wanted to do is go and find the murder weapon. So they look around, they're figuring what in the world could do this damage to this woman. So they're looking and they cannot find, but by the time being, they take the doctor, the husband, in for questioning. Now, while the doctor is in the police car, he acts so erratically, you guys. He is devastated. He is crying. He is calling out Susan's name, like, why? And he's banging his head on like the, it's not mesh, you guys, but if you're in the back of a police vehicle, there is kind of like a cage inside the police vehicle. I call it like a cage because, you're not going anywhere. So he's like grabbing the cage and like being erratic, going back and forth, just totally, absolutely devastated of his wife being murdered, which, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely horrible that he had to go and see that. So the police are like, listen, we have to take you in for questioning. And of course he agrees. So they go and take him in for questioning. And he starts to do a timeline. The doctor was saying, I got my wife a Valentine's Day card. I had 2 surgeries that day, but I left after the first surgery. I went home to give her the card. And then I went to the second one. It was very odd, honestly, because I'll get more into that. So he goes and does these surgeries, and they go off, you guys, without a hitch. And the second surgery was apparently on a tumor. Yeah. And yeah, apparently, great surgeon. He did a great job. Now, of course, Detective Scott was trying to figure out what in the world, what could happen. What is happening? As he starts an investigation, he starts to realize who this guy is and what kind of surgeon he is, and actually how controversial he was. Yeah, so you guys know where I'm getting at. So the detective actually finds out, before that, sorry guys, while he's questioning the doctor, they take his clothes, and his clothes are soaked with blood. Now, his reasoning is for that he was cradling his wife and he was trying to help her, and he got blood all over his clothes. Well, the police took the blood and the bloody clothing, and there was no clothes there, so they put him in an orange jumpsuit. And again, he starts acting erratic and really funny, and they're like, okay. But, you don't know how you would act. God forbid, I'm not claiming any of this energy on you guys, of how you would truly act if your spouse died. And he truly loved her, love of his life. Apparently that's what he told many people, and a lot of people believed it. Like I said, people thought they were a match made in heaven. There was no prior violence between the two. There was no domestic disputes. So, of course, when he was brought in for questioning, people were very surprised. But then they weren't, because you always question the spouse, you know? Now, when they had the bloody clothes, they took it to to the forensics. And they start to realize, going into the investigation, that he is controversial, because there is a pro-life people that are just like staging protests pretty much all over the clinics for anti-abortion and pro-life. Now, Dr. John actually mentioned that. He said that these people would go on their lawn and go to the home and threaten them and just basically make their life hell. So the police are like, okay, let's bring in the lead guy. Let's bring in the lead protester. And what he said, he was like, I did not do this, and I wouldn't kill the wife. I mean, I would kill him, the surgeon. So, I mean, that is kind of like a duh situation. Like, why would he kill the wife? But also, there was no evidence linking this group to this crime at all. At all. So, Detective Scott has to go back and figure out, okay, we need to start from square one, check alibis, and go on from there. Check out other leads. And man, does he find one. When he goes back to the doctor's office and talks to the receptionists and asks about appointments and surgeries that day, he does get the truth that there were 2 surgeries that day, Valentine's Day. But what Dr. John failed to mention was the second surgery, he was 30 minutes late. Yeah. They had the patient under anesthesia, and he was late, that they actually paged him, called him saying, where are you? We have the patient under. And just to let you know, their home was only 2 miles away from the hospital. So very close range, close range between the hospital and the doctor's home with Susan. So when the detectives start to figure that out, they're like, why didn't he tell us that he was late to his second surgery? So, yeah. The day after, while I believe he was still being questioned, or he was let go at this time, what happened was that they found the murder weapon in the least expected way. So as the police and detectives are going through the home, and they're actually thinking, okay, well, if the protester didn't, go and kill her, maybe this was a robbery gone wrong. This is a very, very nice home, extremely nice home. And that's what Detective Scott was wondering, if there was a robbery, because they did find out that her jewelry was missing. Her beautiful rings and necklaces that were worth a lot of money, they were gone. They were not at the home anymore. So what happened was that, the detective was thinking, well, like I said, robbery gone wrong. But the fact is, when there is a robbery, there is usually a messy home. There is usually, drawers pulled out left and right, and there is things being thrown everywhere. But there was nothing like that in the home at all. The only thing that was very weird, the whole case was weird, but there was an actual blood-soaked rag at the scene. So it looked like whoever was trying to hurry up and clean up, they couldn't finish, and they had to quickly leave. All right, we have a tea break. Oh, I just spilled it on the burner. You guys hear that? That sizzling sound? Oh. All right. Oh, yeah, that is peach tea, my favorite. Ooh, sizzle, sizzle. Okay. So let's go back to the maid. The maid went to the detective and actually said, something is missing. Something is definitely missing from the home. I cannot find it. And the detective was like, what is missing? She said there was like this statue that was upstairs in the bathroom between the sinks. And it was a pretty heavy statue. And all of a sudden, it's not there anymore. So the detectives figure out that is the murder weapon. And they believe it was a weapon of opportunity, which means this crime was not premeditated. Means that the killer did not think about this crime before or planned it in any kind of way. They think it was a spur of the moment, like someone was in an absolute rage. So they could not find that. Even to this day, they have not found the murder weapon. But the maid definitely helped with the case with a new set of evidence talking about the statue. All right, now remember I said that when the detectives went to go check to see about his surgeries, and they didn't realize that he was late to his second one? Well, that was enough to get a search warrant. So they go and get a search warrant, and they go and check Dr. John's vehicle. And in the vehicle, they found, I feel like, the smoking gun. The smoking gun was a Valentine's Day card. Yeah, and it was from Susan. And it had a really sweet message inside that was from the card. You know, how, you have all kinds of cards that have nice saying in it already. Not only the card had something nice already saying in it, it was a cryptic message that was written in her own handwriting in the card. And it read this: obviously, I bought this before last Monday. I bought my card 2 weeks ago, so I guess maybe they don't seem as appropriate now. But I do love you. Now, with police seeing this card, they're like, wait a minute. So their marriage wasn't hunky-dory. There was difficulties in their marriage. So that knocked the case right open again. And the evidence pointed right to the doctor, right to the husband. Now, they say 2 days before, or a few days before, they were Susan found 50 phone calls, over 50 phone calls that were made by her husband. Now, before all that, the police were wondering, why did they have a problem? What was going on? And now I'm going to get to they found out about the 50 phone calls. Other podcasters I heard that did not know why or how she found out. The simple reason was he was being sneaky about it. He would have these calls, but he would not take these calls around his wife. So she did grow suspicious. And like I said before, she was a no-nonsense woman. So when she saw these calls, not only she was devastated, but she was embarrassed. She thought that he had an affair or was having an affair. So she goes and calls the number and realizes it is an exotic dancer named Lena. Now, the exotic dancer claimed that she is not having an affair at all, and that the doctor only gives her medication like birth control shots. And also, in my research, this dancer was also mentally not there, meaning she had extreme mental health issues, and she talked about suicide quite a bit. And Dr. Hamilton did what he could to help her, but he was not having an affair. But, Susan, I'm going to go on Susan's side here. If that is happening, why don't you talk to her? Why isn't there communication? Like, hey, babe, there's this patient that won't leave me alone. I just want to talk to you about it so you wouldn't think anything is gone. None of that conversation happened at all. So I've also learned that there has been a little bit of tension, about that. Now, he was very upset that she did not trust him because apparently he did not give her any reason to not trust him. But if you're calling someone about 50 times, I kind of want to know about it. I kind of want to know if you have like a psycho patient or, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. We shouldn't say psycho. I feel like that's really mean. She was a dancer and she said, she wanted birth control shots, which I didn't even know was a thing, especially back in the early 2000s. Like that must have been in like the infancy area of the shots. Sorry, I had to take a tea break. So when all that happened, the doctor does not look good because that screams motive. Because even he said that, because they were like, why would your wife write this in your Valentine's Day card? It's not really nice. I would be upset if my wife wrote that in my card. It just seemed kind of like cryptic and weird. And he explained about the phone calls. And then the police were like, okay, well, was it resolved? And he was like, yes, it was not a big deal. And it was definitely resolved. Well, police didn't believe him. So he actually was charged with murder. And yeah. And he also, you guys, was denied bail, which very surprising. I think he was denied bail because of the brutal nature of this murder. It was it was really sad and brutal. And she was a mother that her daughter Angela, oh my God, she loved her so much. Angela was the only child. I believe now she is living in New York City. And it's a really sad case. I feel like awful. I can't imagine what Susan has gone through, what Angela has gone through. It's awful. As police were getting more evidence for the case, the doctor is already charged with murder. Now the trial, you guys, oh my gosh. He was like a celebrity in Oklahoma. There were so many women that were his doctor and also really supported him because he was pro women's rights, So the actual prosecutor, Wesley Lane, he was a district attorney as well. He also talked about how tense it was in that courtroom. And he actually dealt with really hardcore criminals. I mean, biker gangs and just really, really bad stuff. But he said this trial was one of the most intense in his career because the women were staring at him like if their eyes were lasers, he would have been vaporized. Let's just say that. So police began to talk about the case and, he hired these big high-time lawyers, like very, very expensive defense attorney. And he even hired this forensic blood expert analysis to get him free, of course. So throughout the trial, it's not looking good. They have an answer for everything. They have an answer for why there was DNA in the car. They have an answer for why there was bloody footprints. It just seemed like it was not going in the prosecution's favor at all. Yeah. I forgot to mention that, you guys. There was DNA evidence in his vehicle. When they sprayed his car down with luminol, it lit up like a Christmas tree. There was also flesh on the steering wheel, blood and hair of Susan in the vehicle. Yeah, I know. It's awful. But again, they had an excuse for that. And I'm just like, wow, okay. Then finally, the case is so tense and the prosecutor, Wes, is like running out of steam. Okay. He's just like, okay, I need to win this case, but it doesn't look like I'm going to win at all until the defense has a witness. And like I said, the blood spatter analysis named Tom Bevel. He actually, Wes, it's unbelievable, you guys. So, okay, I want to put it where it's like unbelievable. Okay, so Tom Bevel is working for the defense. Yes, working for Dr. Hamilton. Now, Tom Bevel gets asked one last question when he is cross-examined by the district attorney, Wes Lane. And the last thing he asks is, did we miss anything? Did we miss anything in this case? Anything else we're missing? And the actual guy, Tom Bevel, claimed that the blood stain from the clothes was from someone who has actually bludgeoned his wife. Yeah. Not verbatim, but pretty much that. Yes, I know the bloody clothing was because she was holding him. But the fact what sealed his case was not only there was blood spatter on the shoe, but there was blood spatter inside of his wrist cuff of his shirt. So when he was bludgeoning her, the way the blood spatter went inside of his wrist cuff, it would have only been there if he was the killer. Yeah. It was one of those incredible what kind of case, because throughout these hours of trial, Wes was just getting pummeled. He was trying as a prosecutor to give Susan justice, and he tried and he couldn't, but he finally did by asking that question. And Tom Bevel, he can't lie under oath. And he was supposed to be working. It's not funny, but this part's funny. I feel like it's Susan that came back and watched her court case and made this happen and made Tom Bevel tell the truth. Because it doesn't matter what status, how much money you have. If you're a murderer, you're going to be caught. And I feel like her soul definitely got justice for her murder. The jurors only spent 2 hours deliberating his sentence. He is in a maximum security prison, and he received life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now, with the absolute respect of the family, I want to, in the best way, talk about what happened with Susan. Now, police and investigators believe that those phone calls and tension and everything, like him being, him committing, doing abortions and working with women and having this woman call him many times and her being stressed, people believe that sadly the one he loved the most was Susan, and there was a fight, and he did not want her to leave him at all. So it's tense. He comes home to bring her a Valentine's Day card and some red orchids. And then he goes upstairs. She just gets out of the shower. She's in a towel. And he is just so angry when he reads that card because he knows she ain't going to take no crap and she's leaving. And she's going to say she wants a divorce. So out of a rage, he grabs not one, but 2 neckties. Go behind her. She is grabbing the neckties. Of course, the towel falls and she is nude. And she is fighting for her life. And he overcomes her by grabbing the neckties, strangling her, and pressing her body and smashing her head against the bathroom floor. She is trying to get up. And at this time, they think she was unconscious because when he smashed her head on the floor, she was unconscious, but we do not know. But we do know that he grabbed around the counter and it was that big statue, which that we have never found today. And the big statue between the sink, he grabbed it and he hit her above the head several times until she was unrecognizable. It was brutal. It was so brutal. Her brain was showing, her face was no more, and this was a beautiful woman. And we're talking about, I believe she was only 55 years old, and the doctor was 53. Yeah, and this time they've been married for 14 years. Now, he tried to clean up the crime scene. There was a rag, and he tried to clean it up, but he got the beeper, and because they're saying, "Where are you? We need you for your second surgery." And then what he did was get the murder weapon, roll it up in his trousers, take the murder weapon with him, and drive. Now, they think he threw it away, but again, like I said, the murder weapon has never been found. Drive to the doctor's, go and clean up, and get ready for surgery like nothing happened. Like he didn't brutally bludgeon his wife. I know. It's absolutely horrible. I want to know, like, I've heard of rage cases, and there wasn't any red flags about this doctor. Like, in fact, the family knew they were the love of each other's wives. I feel, in my personal opinion, that it was rage. Everything got to him. And, him losing his wife, him losing, I guess, half his money, everything he worked for, it was just over. Because even in prison, before they, charged him, he was crying and said, "I'll never see Susan again. I've lost the love of my life." And when I heard that, I felt that. I really felt that. Yeah. Thank you for listening or watching today. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this case. As I've done more research, there's people that actually believe he is innocent. Yes. That's fascinating to me, but let me know what you guys think about this case. He is 75 years old, and he is still in prison right now, and he is still saying that he is innocent. He has not said to this day that he is guilty of murdering his wife. Let me know what you think. And also, the giveaway is still happening. It is going to be at the end of this month. It is February 4th, 2024. So at the end of this month, I'm going to be giving away crystals, perhaps nails, and perhaps cologne. And all you have to do, guys, is hit that subscribe button. Please leave me comments. I love reading them. It makes me so happy that you guys just tune in. You guys are really the bee's knees. I appreciate it. Until next time, please know that you are loved and you are cherished. And remember, you are doing better than you think. Bye.